Hi, this is Molly, and welcome to Art Around the World. Today we're going to be traveling to West Africa, to a country called Ghana, and we're going to be doing some printmaking. Let's go! In Ghana, the tradition of printmaking is very special to the Ashanti people. A dinker cloth is created by hand through the process of printmaking. Initially, these cloths were worn only by royalty during certain ceremonies, but over time, many people have also created them to express their thoughts, feelings, or to tell a story. These cloths are made by stamping fabric with the traditional Adinkra symbols. Each symbol has its own meaning. First, people decorate the cloth using black dye made from bark, which is called Adinkra Adaru. The name of the dye is where the cloth gets its name. First, they mark the cloth into squares. Then, they carve symbols into calabash gourds. Then, these gourds are pressed into dye or ink. Finally, they are pressed onto the fabric. Today, we are going to create our own West African print, but we aren't going to be carving into calabash gourds. Instead, you will need a styrofoam plate, a dull pencil, black and red tempera paint, a paintbrush, black or brown cardstock, and a few pieces of plain sketch paper. With all these, you will create prints like these. Let's go!
Hi! Now that you've gathered the materials, let's get started. And we are going to make this today. So we're going to have an elephant print in the middle, and then there's pattern prints, strips on the outside. Okay, let's get going. So first, I'm going to have you find a sketch piece of paper, could be a computer sheet of paper, whatever you have, and we're going to do some just practicing making patterns. And we're going to go across our paper. I've turned my paper horizontally. So we are going to just make whatever symbols come to mind. They could mean something like the Adinkra symbols, or they could just be creative. And as you remember, a pattern is a series of lines or designs that repeats over and over again. So that's what we're doing. We're going to repeat over and over again. So I'm just doing some teardrops. You don't have to do this pattern. Be creative. Doesn't have to look like mine. And doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so those are 3 of mine. Okay. Now that you have completed practicing some patterns, we're actually going to take a strip of styrofoam that I cut out of this oval styrofoam plate, and we're going to be making a pattern into it. Now you'll see why later. And like the Ashanti people carved into calabash gourds, we are carving into styrofoam today. So choose a pattern from your sheet, your practice sheet, one that you like, and you can do it here. You can adjust it or make it different, but just something easy. So maybe you liked the triangles. So I'm just going to carve straight into my styrofoam. You can see it's leaving a line. Okay. Now after you've done that once with a dull pencil, it's not too sharp, so it's not going to go through. I want you to go over the design one more time to get those grooves really deep. Okay, so see how I'm going over those grooves again? I'm not going through it, but I'm making them deep into the styrofoam. Now I already completed one earlier, so this is the one that we will be using later on when we make our print. Now our next step, we're actually going to cut again and cut out a rectangle, and I cut it out from another styrofoam plate. So we're going to need a total of 2 styrofoam plates. So if you have those handy, cut that out. Take some time to cut that out. And once you've got it cut out, we're going to trace it. Now the reason we're going to trace it is because we have to make our elephant fit into this rectangle, or else he'll be too big or too small for our print. So I'm going to trace around that. Okay, so now we're going to show you a simple way to draw an elephant. So first, as you guys know, elephants kind of have that curved hump, and it goes down just slightly, not as much like a horse, so just like a slight little hill. If you could do that on that side of the paper. Okay, and I don't know if you knew this, but African elephants actually have an ear, and it doesn't have to be perfect because I am definitely not perfect at drawing Africa, but similar to the shape of Africa. So I drew that big ear for that elephant. You can go ahead and do that too. And they have larger ears than Indian elephants. Okay, now we're going to come down here and draw his forehead. So another curve. You want to draw that curve right there. And then right at this spot, we're going to bring his trunk down. So just some curvy lines, maybe down to about there. So I have about an inch left from here to here, maybe an inch and a half. And we're going to just, if you want to make his trunk look like it's open, his nostril, let's draw a little almond shape down at the bottom of that trunk. Okay, I'll give you a second if you need to catch up, or you can also pause the video at any point. Now I'm going to take that line back up and just bring it into the ear, because our ear was so big. Now for his mouth, I'm just going to draw a tiny little triangle right there. So his mouth is kind of hidden behind his ear. Okay, now coming down from about this part of Africa, this side, we're going to draw his big legs. So they kind of have a little bit of a curve down here, but just they come back in a little bit and then go out. So that's his front leg. And we're going to take that back up here. Not all the way up, so stop right there and give him a little arm muscle. Okay. Again, if you need to pause the video, feel free. Now coming down from this curve, it's okay if you have a little line off the back. I'll show you what that's for. We're going to come in and come down again. We want to make sure we're kind of even with this foot, because this is his back foot. Okay, we're going to curve that line up. You know what? I didn't like the way I curved it, but that's why we have erasers. I'm going to curve that in. Okay. And then we're going to bring this leg up. Okay, look at that negative space right here. It's actually about to look like two curtains, and this being a window. So if you can get to there and make something that looks like two curtains and a big window in the middle. And then we need to draw his belly. So I'm going to just draw another curved line. Okay. Now we need to draw his tail. So maybe you have a little part sticking down, but we're going to just draw this little tail coming off the back here. And then from his belly, I'm going to go down a little bit. Do that. Then we also need to draw a front leg that looks like it's from the back. So there you go. Almost looks like two curtains, doesn't it? If you look at that negative space in the middle. But that's his front leg. And then he needs an eye, doesn't he? So if you want to draw an eye on your elephant, sometimes I leave a little white spot. Okay. Now I'm kind of looking at this curve. If you want to change anything, now's the time. I kind of want that curve to look a little different, so I'm going to just change it a little bit so he's a little more even. If there's anything you want to change, go ahead and take the time to change it. But you just drew an elephant. Give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, now that we have that step, we're going to move on to the next step. So we're going to take that same Styrofoam. I'm going to use the shiny side. I'm going to line up my elephant on this Styrofoam. Make sure that every part of my elephant is on that so I can press down and find it, just making sure my elephant will be on it, that every part of him, his feet will be on it, his back, his face. And when I have that, I'm going to use some tape, just tape down the corners so that it doesn't move. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it will help me hold it down a little better. Okay. Now we're going to use this elephant that you drew as our tracing paper, and we're going to use him to help us carve into our Styrofoam. So your drawing, you might go through it, but your elephant will come out pressed in to your, uh-oh, my pencil broke here. Oh, I haven't broke. Okay, now that you have finished kind of engraving and tracing over your elephant, we're gonna gently peel off that tape. And you're gonna see what's beneath. So now I'm gonna lift it off, and there's my elephant. Now what I want you guys to do is actually go over it again with your dull pencil. You don't have to go through your Styrofoam. You don't really want to. And go over that elephant one more time. Okay, so there's my elephant. And I think those lines are pretty deep. If I see any that don't look too deep, maybe I'll go back over those a little bit. Okay, so you want to make sure your lines are deep. That's important. So now we're moving on. Right now, I'm going to take red and black tempera paint. Okay, and I have a little paint tray right here. And we're going to put some tempera paint down in my little paint tray, as you can see. And you know, I think I actually want this elephant on a white piece of paper. I have some, so I got that white piece of paper ready. Get that little crumb off there. And I think just like our print, I'm going to use black. So I'm going to take this pretty big paintbrush, and I'm just going to go straight over my print. Okay, so I think I've covered the whole thing. Now I'm going to put that paintbrush to the side, move this over. I'm going to put just a paper to absorb if there's any black. I'm going to put some paper right there. Now here's my sketch paper. I'm going to try not to put my fingerprints on this. I'm taking this print. My hands are. Okay, I'm going to flip this elephant over. And I'm just gonna hold with one hand very firmly. You might need a parent to help you, and that's okay. I'm just gonna press it down. Some of you might even have, like in your kitchen, like a cookie dough roller or dough roller. I have this handy thing called a brayer that you can order those online. So I'm gonna just use the brayer today, just to make sure. But if you don't have that, it's okay. A mom or a dad could probably help you. I'm just gonna roll over my elephant. And then I'm going to pull it up. And there it is. Do you see those lines? Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so there's my elephant. Now, I want to do some red strips. Let's see. I'm going to move my nice print out of the way because I don't want it. And I'll put this down on this white piece of paper so you can see. This has a little black in my brush, but that's okay. If you want to get a new brush, no problem. I think the red is going to take out a lot of that black. That water just didn't quite get it out as much as I thought it would. And then I'm gonna move this so it doesn't get on my print. Okay, so I've painted this red now. I'm gonna flip it over at the top. Take my brayer, go across. You guys can smooth it out with your hands, rub it. Okay, and then I'm going to lift it off. Okay, can you guys see that pattern? Now I'm going to do the same thing. Get this brush here, get some red on it, and I'm going to go over that pattern strip again with my red paint. And I'm going to put this down at the bottom of my print. Lift that off. Now we've got the sides to do. Here we go with more red paint. If you want to make your elephant stand out a little more, you can mat it or glue it down to a piece of black cardstock and it'll make it pop really well. So I hope you enjoyed this demo and learning how to make your own West African inspired print. Thanks for joining us.